Hello, this is Bonnie, and today I want to work on an ornament tag with you. And so it's not really difficult. It's kind of fun, and you can see that it's rather simple. So you should be able. I'm hoping that people can do this. So I'm going to tell you first some of the supplies that we're going to be using. First of all, we're going to be using. I got this one backwards, but that's okay. We can still tell. It's the fairy Condo, and what I did is I stamped, I actually stamped all three of them, but I only used these two in this particular thing, but you can use any of these when you go to do it. I'm going to go ahead and flip that around so you can see the right way that the stamp comes, because that does make a difference. So you can see it actually comes this way, although when you stamp these it doesn't really matter. So again, that is Fairy Condo. And I also used, if you can see that little branch there, and this is the Wreath builder from Fairy Hugs. I just used that as a tree. And then I used the Sentiment Fairy Christmas from Fairy Hugs. And I also used the Condo Dwellers 2. There's a Condo Dwellers without the 2, and the one I used was the one with the 2. And I used this one right here. But you could use any of them. I think the walking one would be cute. So there's a lot that would be cute on there. This works really well. So, then, like I said, the first thing that I did was I stamped out these houses. And because you can just ink it up and just stamp out those houses. And then I actually colored them in. And I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly. I'm using Prisma color pencils. And I got to remember which one I did that. Okay, so this one's terracotta, and it's 944. And it's really simple. You do not have to color these in if you don't want to, but they're pretty simple to color in. They do take a little bit of time, but they're pretty simple. As you can see, I'm going to get a little bit closer, and you can see that they really are easy to color. And not only that, but you can go out of the lines because I'm going to hand cut these out. And then the next one I'm going to use, these keep rolling on me, is Tuscan Red, and that's 937. And that's going to give me a little bit of the red cast. And what I'm trying to do is leave the center of this so that it looks more rounded by having it lighter. Okay. And the next one, although I don't have much more room for this, this is Mahogany Red, and it's 1029. I'm just trying to get more of a kind of like a barn wood look to it. And then the last one, you don't have to do much coloring because there's not much space there, is Nectar, and 1092. And that basically finishes off the house, this particular one. And you can take a little bit more time than what I'm taking if you want to, but it's not too hard. All right, then the next thing I did was the top part, and that's the leaves. And I did Kelp Green, which is 1090. And it's the darkest. I used two, a dark and a lighter green. So I'm thinking of this more as a shadow. And these pieces are so tiny, it's not that big of a deal. You could really just do one solid color if you wanted. All right, and then the one I went with it is called Apple Green 912. And you, if you don't have the Prismacolor, you can use any color. Just you need a light and a darker. I think that helps. And again, it doesn't even have to be pencils. It could be anything else you want it to be. However, if you do Copics or anything like that, you have to stamp with a different, proper ink that goes with your Copics. Okay, so then what I did was I came in with, this one, which is ginger root. You can hardly see it anymore because I've used it so much. 1084, and I'm just kind of slightly going over all of it to blend it in. And again, you don't have to do that. It's just like what I like to do. All right, then to highlight this one, because you can see a part that I did not color, I use a sparkle gel pen. This is from Pentel. And I really, really like this one. It's really pretty. So I'm doing the circle at the top. And then just this part right here. The very top there. And then the design on the door and the window. And that's going to be that. And then I'll hand cut that out separately. And then there's this one. And I am using a couple different colors for this one. And the darkest one for this is Dark Umber 947. And I'm coming up from the bottom. I'm going to do my highlighting a little bit different on this one. And you can see how quickly that went. It doesn't take very much time. And if you really do this, if you were going to do a lot of them at one time to make a bunch of tags, you could just color this and then go to your next one, and then keep pulling up the different color pencils. Yeah, I think this one's next. This one's Black Raspberry, and it's 1095. And it's going to give me a little bit of the burgundy color. And then the last one I'm going to use is Chestnut 1081. And then I also used, I did this one already, it was this one. And that is Putty Beige 1083. And again, this is just a lighter color to blend it all in together. And then I actually used the exact same colors, green, for the leaves on this one that I already told you, and that's the Kelp Green 1090. And again, this is my darker color, so I'm doing that as my shading. And you can see really how quickly that goes. All right, and then the Apple Green. And I'm just leaving a little bit so that I can highlight that. Otherwise, you can just color it all in. Okay, and that would be the ginger root. The ginger root has a little bit of a green cast, even though it's a kind of a creamy color. So it goes well with the green. All right, and then again, I'm just going to take get these out of the way. I'm just going to take my gold gel pen again, sparkle, color in that top piece, and the window, both windows. And there we go. We've got both of those done, ready to go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the background scene. I'm going to go ahead and get that together to show you. Okay, so now we're going to get the base of it prepared so that we'll be able to make the scene on there. And basically what I always do is I get out my blending brush and I mist that and then rub it across. And I'm using Pumice Stone for my background. One of my favorites. It's very subtle, but it takes away the bright white. And I don't know why I'm not a fan of the bright white. Not that it's not good. I've seen beautiful, beautiful things done with bright white. So that's going to be very subtle, our background. And normally I would let that dry, but I don't think I'm very concerned about that at the moment. There's not much moisture to that little bit. So then the next thing is, I should have told you what the size of this was so that you would know. What did I do with there's my ruler. The size of this circle measures 4 inches. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little moon, and it is 1 1/4 inches. You can use whatever size you want. It's the one that I did in the sample back here. And so all I did was I just placed that about right there. You can place it wherever you want, and then you adjust where you put your houses. And for the halo of it, I use the faded jeans. And I don't use any moisture with that. I just use it as it comes. And I rub around that slightly. I don't want a lot. Just enough for a little halo. And this one's really a pretty simple design background. Okay, so now we have our moon. And then you can spread that out a little bit if you want, just by rubbing over it. It kind of mellows it, makes it subtle. All right, so that's the moon. So then the next thing is I kind of like want to have a good idea where I want to put the hills. So I've already hand cut what we just colored, and I want the taller one to be over the side, plus I'm going to put the tree there. So that's pretty much going to be the placement, and that's how I audition it, is that's where the placement's going to be. So then I use my famous torn paper that's really a mess, and I want my hills to be so that they are standing on it. So I'm going to go like that, scooch those out of the way, and come back in with a little bit of faded jeans. And this torn paper works good in both directions, actually. So now you can subtly see how that's going to set. And then I decided I wanted to add another little bit of a hill that's coming closer to the front. And so I'm going to use a little bit more of the faded jeans to make it a little bit darker, to look like it's more towards the front. There was one other thing I wanted to tell you too, is if you're making this as a tag that you're going to put on the front of a present, I purposefully left the space down here at the bottom to write the person's name. You don't have to do that, but that's what I did. So that's the design. Pretty simple for that. But then I decided to go ahead and add lightly some clouds. And I'm going to use this piece of paper, which has a little bit of a more of a straight edge and some curved. So, and then in this, I go in this direction instead of this direction for my clouds. And I'm going to use a Pumice stone. And I'm just using it as regular, not adding any type of water to that or misting. I don't want it really dark. I really want this one to be more subtle. If you really want definition, add more of the ink. And you can take a peek. If there's not much there, there's not much there. I need more. So, I want it a little bit darker. Let's see. Still needs to be more. And that's how I test it. It's like I start out slow and then add more. It's easy to add and it's harder to take away. So then I flip this around because I want it to have a little bit different design so it doesn't look uniformed. going this way, it makes it so the tops of the clouds are more white. You can kind of see that. And this side needs a little bit more. And because, like I said, I want it to be more subtle, I'm not going to put some down here at all. Lots of times I'll go straight down, and I'm not going to this time. I think I'm going to go like this. Sometimes I use two different papers. I just like to have it different so it doesn't look too uniform. It needs a little bit more. Better. Okay, I think I'm just going to do it one more time. And not as heavy. Every time I do this, like I've said before in my videos, it's always different. It's just whatever. Okay. So then I'm just going to come back in here and just do a very light over it all. All right, and then I did do a little teeny tiny bit in the moon. Okay, so we've got that background done. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, the next thing I need to do is, again, I will audition these back into place so that I will know where to put the tree to stamp. But I need to set up my stamping platform first. Okay, so I need to do my sentiment first because that's the part that makes me go this way. And then I also know where I want the tree. I did audition that as well. So this is where that's going to be. These are not attached yet, but they were there so that I knew where to put that, and I'll bring those back in. I am using Morning Mist. I am not using Nocturne. I'm doing a lighter gray instead because of how it's all looking a little bit more subtle. All right. And because I'm stamping on top of Distress Oxide, I need to stamp this twice. I wanted a little bit darker. I didn't want it to be the first color anyway. I wanted it not as dark as black, but a little bit darker than gray. All right, so that's set. Again, I'm going to set these back in here so I know I have this pretty much the way I wanted it to be. It fits really nicely around this. If you can see the edge of that sentiment, it fits really nicely around the roof. And I really like that. All right, so my tree, even though this is a bit longer, I'm going to have that one kind of like touch about right at the top of the hill. And I'm going to try to make sure I don't get too much at the very bottom. And again, I'm going to be using Morning Mist. So when I'm stamping this, I'm trying not to stamp towards the bottom of the stem. We'll call it a tree trunk in this case. Okay, so that's good. It needs a little bit more ink, I can see on the inside, which will make it a little bit darker for the second stamping, which is okay. So that's good. It matches with the sentiment fine. Now what I did was I also did a second tree, and I'm going to be putting that really kind of close right there. And this still has, let me wipe that off just a tad. You see it has a little bit of ink and it will show when I set it down. It's hard to do. Usually I use the acetate that the stamps come with, but because this particular stamp has several on it, it doesn't fit on here well. So it's hard for me to audition them on. All right. Again, I am not going to put much of the end of the tree, so I'm just going to stamp the top part as best I can. And the other thing I can do is, oops, I'm losing my house. I can wipe this back right here at the end. Okay. That looks good, even though there's a faint one right there. I think, you know what, just because there is a faint one, I'm going to put a little bit more. I don't want it to be faint. There we go. That's good. So we're done with stamping. The next thing I need to do is put the houses on, and I'm going to also ink around the edges. But let me do the houses first. We can just do that straight away. So what I did was, the longer one, I actually glued on, and then the smaller one, I used foam tape so I'd have some dimension. So I never know if my if my glue is going to work without opening it back up, but it is. Yay! Okay. Even still, I like to set these together to see how that's going to work. And that's going to work. All right, and then I get out my foam tape and put some tape on the back of the smaller fairy house. And that works really well. And that basically is your design. And again, you can write the name down here, or you can have these houses come down further if you want, however you really want that to be designed. It really doesn't matter. This just gives you an idea of what to do. All right, so then the next thing I did, because I decided I wanted mine to be an ornament tag, is first I inked around this. Grab that. And again, I am just using faded jeans and my little brush, and I'm just going around the edges. It just, sometimes it seems like it anchors it. There was somebody I used to watch that did the inking, and one of the things she always did was she always put ink around the edges. She just, I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was kind of like it anchored the picture. I don't know. But ever since she did, I saw her doing that, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give that a try. And I really do like it. It just seems to give a border that makes the picture seem anchored. All right. So that part's done. Then the next thing I did, it really doesn't take that long once you get started and you do a bunch of them at one time. I cut out a gold. It's metallic, but it is not a mirrored gold. And just because I wanted to frame it. And to do that, I just glued that on with regular glue. And then the next thing, which I wanted to think of something that anybody could do, I was hoping, was to make an ornament topper. I have several dies that I could use, but I thought there's going to be people that don't have the right size, and maybe they needed to have a way that they could make an ornament topper. So I got out some mirrored gold that matched, or it could have been the exact same one. It really didn't matter. And then I measured. Now, to give you an idea about what I measured, if you want to do something similar, on the one that I did, it's about 1 inch. And it's about, it's about 3/4 of an inch high. And this one's a little bit higher than that. Now, for me, I just eyed it. And then I'll cut a little bit of that off. I might end up cutting off more, I don't know. And then it used to be they had a tool where you could actually crimp these, but that's too much of a, what I want to say, there's too much of a definition or texture to that. If you use your score tool, whatever one you have, and you just, this one I probably should have made a little bit longer if I would have. Let's see, we'll go like this. You want to make your lines in every groove. And that works because the mirrored paper, you can do it really well with a mirrored paper. Okay, so that's how, I mean, if you just wanted to do it like that, you could. If you want to add one more step to it, give it a little bit more dimension, have a lot of things to pick up. You can take this and you look at your, how do I say it? I'm better at showing than telling sometimes. Okay, so each line, well, let me just show you. You go like this. Am I close enough? Basically, the lines are where you, well, I'm not good at saying what it is you do. It doesn't have to be this hard. How do I say it? Okay. Basically, can you see what I'm doing? It's so hard to describe this. Let me get closer. All right. So, I don't know how to say it. I'm better at showing. I know somebody will probably write down below in the comments, this is what you should have said. And that's okay. That's great. I'm just better at showing sometimes and saying how to do it. And if that looks too complicated, just leave it, you know, straight across. It really doesn't matter. But anyway, that's what I end up coming out with. And it looks like one, and it didn't really cost, other than time, take time. It doesn't really cost anything if you have the paper. And then basically, I glue that to the top with my glue, and I end up having an ornament tag. Now, one more thing. Make sure I get this straight without my grid down below. Okay, so that is technically your tag. Now for my tag, again, I liked to have a little bit of a strand at the top. So I got out my hole punch. And again, I'm eyeing everything. But try to find the center and punch. And then I can't tell you where I got this from. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to stamp the little fairy. Well, we'll do that in a minute. We can still do that. All of a sudden, my little fairy jumped out at me. She was attached to my string. I do not know where I got this metallic type thread. But for me, fairy-wise, I love it. I use it all the time. I don't know if there's still string out there that's like this metallic string, but otherwise you can use anything, any type of, I think you can still get embroidery floss, and that's really pretty, and you could do it that way too. So I just fold this a couple times, and then I cut it off, and I actually use my crochet hook to pull it through. I put my crochet hook in, and I just pull the whole thing through. And I open that back up, and pull it all through. Sometimes it doesn't all want to come. And there it is. Now if you pull too tight, you can rip your hole. So I try not to do that either. I try to pull it through. There we go. Okay. And then I trim off the very ends. Unless you want yours a little bit more scattered, you can do it that way too. And then I have my tag. But I'm going to go ahead and stamp my fairy. Sorry about that, I forgot to tell you to do that. So pull out my stamping platform really quick so you can see that, and then we'll be done. So it doesn't take really that long to do this. Like I said, once you get on a roll, you can do it much quicker. And even though this is popping up, I'll be okay. Because that little fairy isn't very big. And I think I put the other one up higher. Like I said, they're both different a little bit, but that works. So she's sitting right there. And again, I'm using my Morning Mist, VersaFine Clair. I'm going to do her one more time. Okay, so we're good. And like I said, you could actually make several of these at one time. You just cut out all your circles and get going with that, and then you'll have your special little tag. It can go on a bag, it can go on a present. It's really kind of fun. So I hope you enjoyed that little tutorial today, and I hope you're having a great holiday season. Don't forget you can join Fairy Stamper on Facebook at Fairy Stamper Hugs. We have changed our challenge to monthly instead of every other week, and can't wait to see what you make. Come and share. Everything that I made for this project will be in the description below. Thanks so much.